CLAYS, CORTEX.
Hey guys, welcome to this episode of CLAYS CORTEX, the podcast. Sorry, I'm laughing because I did a different intro like when I do it for Instagram for the business. But welcome to this episode of CLAYS CORTEX, the podcast. I'm here with Mr. Brandon Green. He's in Toronto, and we're really excited. We've actually been trying to talk about doing a podcast for a while. He's been, doing his thing up in Toronto. I've been doing my thing here. The 3-hour difference is tough. Plus, we got kids, which is a blessing. He's got another one on the way. Which is crazy, but yeah, we're just excited to talk about this episode today. And what we're gonna be talking about essentially is, our journeys through business and things that have helped us and so forth, and how to be seen as potentially an exercise professional in the field. But yeah, I'm excited. This is Brandon. He has a gym very similar to mine here in Washington, in Toronto, a little bit outside Toronto, Newmarket. So if you're in that area, you guys got to hit him up. He's got a great group of guys and girls, excuse the weights people are lifting, that are there helping people with their muscular issues and so forth, sensations to help reach their goals. But yeah, Brandon, before we get going, since I've been on your podcast, tell us first a little bit about you.
Gosh, well, that's such a blanket thing to say. Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for having me on the show. I really appreciate being here. My name is Brandon Green, like Curtis said, which is so great. I've got a place called Strata Internal Performance in Newmarket, Ontario, which is a nice little suburb town away from Toronto. I like that. I'm not a big, busy city guy. I like being closer to nature and stuff like that. Yeah, I've been doing this crazy exercise thing for about 15 years. I started off when I was 18, 19. I became a trainer really, really young. And at that time, one of the courses and one of the guys you've had on here, the resistance training specialist program, the leader of my gym at that time was named Mario, and he was a huge RTS guy. So he said, sure, you passed your personal training certification, but you got to pass my test. And he came up with his own RTS test, which was really a terrible RTS test at that time. But nonetheless, I mean, being 18 and 19 and learning about moment arms and close pack positions and force angles really helped kickstart my career and really helped me learn and think a little bit differently than other trainers. So I just ended up through that, learned more from the resistance training specialist program, more about motor control, exercise, diagnostics, allowed me to become the head trainer and what they called the trainer of the trainers at the facility. But Tom owns that trademark, so not actually that. At a really young age, I think I was like maybe 21, head trainer of this facility at 20 trainers, which was kind of crazy doing these study groups. And unfortunately, that amazing gym, Persicini Fitness, closed, and it turned into this journey of, okay, well, what's required to open my own space, to create a home, not only for my trainers, but to create a facility that has all the tools, all the nits and pieces that are required to help our demographic, people struggling with pain, aches, and all these problems, but also high performance goals. Having a retired NHL player to an 85-year-old arthritic person. How do I make sure I have a facility that can cater to them, but also allow other trainers to get their professional development? So much like you, that's how Strata was born. And much like CLAYS training is really, it's that we built a place that was needed and continue to try and push that. So now I'm here 15 years later. I don't know how I got here, 2 kids, it's crazy, but I can't complain. I absolutely love it, man.
I love it, man. And I think, guys, what's really cool, if you listen to his journey, it's somewhat similar, right? So if you guys know me from OG, young Curtis, Quentin's over here. He was like one of the first guys I ever trained. He's here now training, killing it, doing a great job. He went to the muscle specialist course, and he got his degree in exercise science, health science too. And it's just funny because when I first started I was also an employee, just doing the training by myself. So it was a baseball facility and so forth. It was a great opportunity to be, I would say, thrown into the fire. Right, like I was able to essentially get a lot of experience. Like it was like that whole like fire hydrant approach, where like if you're thirsty, it's just like boom, 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 right? And along that journey, I realized that I needed to grow more, right? And I'm thankful that I was exposed to an athlete that went to go do a certain modality. They're like, dude, this is right up your alley. You gotta check it out because how you train. You're like, well, hey, turn your knee out or do this when you're doing lunges. And my first influence was Eric Cressy. Heard about him in college and so forth. And he came and changed our whole weight program at our school at Kennesaw State. And I was like, wait, there's a different way to train. Because when I was in my major, we were going through, like program design and reps and sets and power and so forth. And I was like, wait, there's a little bit different ways to do things, which I like. I think that's just how I'm wired. I didn't realize it at the time. But I went there and I realized that I need to start my own business to be able to get the education or go to courses that I needed to help grow um, me in what I was helping provide to my clients. Whether and at that time it was mainly athletes, and I would say it was baseball players only because it was at a baseball facility and it was dudes, right? Um, and then eventually some softball girls, and then it developed in from there. And the parents were asking, but I'm going to stop talking about that tangent. But what I want to go over first in this is one thing that I think really helped me going on my journey and my first step of being a professional or an exercise professional and getting to this journey that I'm still on today is I had to become very good at the tools that I was using, right? Almost like a technician. Um, and that was kind of the first step for me. What were some of the first steps that you felt like you needed to get you on or propel you the first steps to get you to the journey of where you are today with Strata and so forth?
I think that's an awesome question. And I'll tell you what I thought was needed, and then I'll tell you what I think was actually needed
I love
because
it.
it turned into me wasting a lot of years. So, like you, I was 100% focused on all the technical stuff. I tried to become so proficient at being able to teach and explain every facet of all the complicated stuff
Mm-hmm.
that we've learned from all the physics, the mechanics, even now the motor control stuff, like trying to learn more about all that, but being able to articulate it. My mentor, Peter Chaselin, who passed
Mm,
away in a tragic accident, he was brilliant at being able to explain really complicated things, but then also being able to dumb it down into like a teddy bear style story that
love it.
made someone understand the physics of it, which was awesome. So I started doing all that, and I did the study groups. I've been doing study groups for 12 years, practicing talking about this stuff, which, as you know, allowed me to become an instructor for the resistance training specialist program at a really young age. I started teaching there when I was 24 or 23,
Yeah.
which is bonkers. But I didn't have any clients. I didn't have many clients. I
Hmm.
wasn't that busy. I had maybe 10, 12 hours of solid people, and then I'd have a week, 25 hours, and then a week of like 10. And it was really inconsistent. And I was hot and bothered by it because I was like, well, wait a
Hmm.
second. I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm doing. I know the stuff. Clearly, I do. I mean, I'm teaching the stuff. I must be good at it. But I wasn't able to turn that into a proper business,
Feel it.
and I wasn't sure how to communicate it, and I didn't have any processes or systems. So Taylor, and ironically enough, you said Quentin's here working at your
Yeah.
place, and he's one of your first. So Taylor, I was working at a spot, sidebar. I was working at a spot. I was at the bottom of the totem pole. Taylor was this young bodybuilder centric guy. He won a personal training session with Ben Pekulski through some contest with his friend. Ben said, you got to go get this modality done at this place in Toronto. He got
Hmm.
referred to the spot in Toronto. The guys at the top didn't want to deal with him, so they referred him to me because I was at the bottom. And now Taylor works here, and he's my operations manager, and he's
I
like
love it.
one of the most amazing guys that I've ever met. So that
I
was
love it,
amazing.
man. It's cool how that works, though. I mean, that's you said sidebar. I don't know if it's sidebar. I think that those moments of us getting to meet people and interact with people, it may not be to where you team up or whatever's at that moment in time. It may be that it's like, you know what, this introduction was happened or it happened so that later on down the road when things start to fall into place, which I think that stuff's really cool, but that's a whole other discussion of business and
Yeah.
stuff. So
I love that stuff. I love that organic stuff.
yeah.
But I told him one time because he was going down the same road that I was. He was going through all the technical stuff because he saw me doing it and he liked it and he thought that
Yeah.
was the next step. And I said, listen, man, I made this mistake and I want you to avoid it. You could stop learning all the technical stuff right now and focus 100% of your time working on communication skills, communication strategies, and having proper sales and intake systems.
I love it.
And if you worked on just that, you'd have a successful business. And he didn't like that at the time. Like he's like, well,
Right.
I don't know. And many of the guys but now he even comes back to me. He's like, I can see what you mean by saying that now. Honestly, I totally get it.
Right.
Because there's a point where the more you learn, the better you're going to get, the more advanced people you can help. Fantastic. But if you can't even help people that are not super advanced because you don't have a proper system, a proper
Hmm.
funnel, right? I've got this thing that I'm calling for this thing I'm working on called the FIST method because I think it sounds hilarious,
Okay.
right? Right? But it's FIST, FIST, right? Find, integrate, stay, and train, right? So if people
Mm,
can't find you, get integrated into your world,
yeah.
stay in your world so you can train them. If you can't work on all of those steps, it's not going to work out for you. So
Feel it.
we've seen trainers like this that, I mean, I honestly are not very technically savvy, but are making, $150,000 a year training people because they got systems and sales systems in place. And so I did focus on, like you, a lot of technical stuff. It does
Right.
serve me well. I don't have to work on much technical stuff nowadays. I can just study more and more and get more specific with the stuff that I
Love it.
learned. It now is much more communication, sales, and business strategies and building the systems out, as I know you're a big fan of, to make sure that all those things work. So, you know, if I could talk to Brandon when I was 21 years old, I would have said all this. I wouldn't have listened, but I would listen now. I
I
mean, if
feel it.
that makes sense.
I feel it. And I think what's really cool about that is I've seen that that's crucial. I like what you said about the FIST method, which I think that sticks. It does though. I mean, it's like, find you, was it find you, integrate,
Integrate, stay, train.
stay, train, right? I mean, it's crucial. I mean, people that come in here, they have to find me, right? And I would say my main form of finding me is word of mouth. I guess for me, from a business standpoint, I know that I've talked to other people that have opened gyms, like, well, you should spend this amount of money or percentage of money that you make per year on marketing. And I'm like, there's so many other things I could do with that money that would benefit the people that are here. In my opinion, right? And so that's just kind of perspective I've taken to integrate them into the system. And sometimes if I look at that, if I'm breaking this down, how we do things here, and we've talked about it on your other podcast, it's different, especially with the athletes. Like what we do is different, not bad different. People try to be different for no real reason, right? Like, like people like, well, Curtis, you wear like a hoodie all the time, and you got a cut off flannel. Like that's just, I'm comfortable, and I want to make sure I can do my job, right? I'm not trying to be different that way. It's just I'm quirky, I'm me, and then stay so that you can train them. But I found over time, what's cool about that, what you just said, is if we are consistent over time with training, good things can happen. The more looks we get into a system, whether it's an experiment in science, whether it's the more I work on a certain model car or type of car, the better I become at being able to help that car or that person or that experiment go smoothly, because we can understand more of the variables. Even though if it's a person to person, it's an N1 study, we have more and more options to be able to see like, oh, that's similar to this, that's similar to this, but this is a way different. Okay, let's go over here. I think that's what's kind of cool about that, man. I think that is going to hit. I think it's going to stick. It just makes sense. It's something you can grasp onto. But I agree with the sales part. I mean, I feel like when I went through the muscle system specialist course, when I went through, and I think when you went through, it's called client intake. And deep down, I kind of like the name client intake. To be honest, it resonates with me. Maybe because it's nostalgia. But the weekend one, we talk about essentially psychology, right? Is how I interpret it. It's psychology, my identity, my role, so forth. And I realized through that, I learned a lot about myself. I learned there's a lot of things that I was already doing very well, but I wasn't conscious of them. When it comes to building community, communicating, that kind of stuff. But now I'm more aware of it. And I've just found that if I can actually communicate what I want to do and the person can grab onto that, then we can get into the whole entire, they're going to stay and train. But if I can't communicate that, they find me. And I guess that'd be a part of the I, maybe the integrate, like I'm trying to communicate to them. If I can't integrate them to understand what we're trying to do, I can lose them, right? I don't even get to show them my technical skills and everything that I've learned. That's like done, which is interesting, And so I feel like a lot of new trainers or people that want to go down the training route, what I found is that they'll go to the technical side. They think it's about the exercise, the order, which type of row, which type of this, which type of that, which is a great place to start. But once you go down this rabbit hole, like I got this picture of Light holding, we had this like moldable wax, and she like rolled up a blue ball and a red ball. And she was like, Daddy, look. And I was like, don't move. And I took a picture. It reminded me of the Matrix, right? Like when you take that red pill, when it comes to exercise, we got the quote on the wall over here. When you take that red pill, when it comes to going to RTS, MSS, the other modality we went to, Jacques classes, listening to Charlie McMillan talk, all these different types of guys, you're like, these guys are on a whole thing. They're down this rabbit hole in a good way, to where it's like, there's more than I'm even seeing. Like, I feel like I'm still at the top of the iceberg when you look, that picture, you look below. And so I think it's a good place to start. But I think that being able to talk to people about the sales aspect is crucial. I mean, how have you seen being able to, I guess, I don't want to say sales, but yeah, communicate what we do. And so how important, like percentage wise or whatever it is, do you think it helps your business?
I would say 100%. I would say that honestly, it's not just like, see, I mean, sales is not a nasty word, right? Like
Mm,
sales, and that's the thing is that there are nasty ways to sell, and I was taught those ways, and I can do it if I need to, and I don't do it at all because every
right,
time I do pushy, hard sales stuff and get someone to sign something, give me their money, they leave. But in
right.
reality, I would say learning how to communicate ethical sales strategies to make sure that what you're doing and what they think that you're doing is all on the same page is
Mm,
critical. It's so critical. And in fact, I believe that you're selling them subconsciously every single time they see you.
I love it. Yeah,
Every
yeah.
single time. Because if you think of that first date and last date analogy that we've talked about in the resistance training specialist program, right? I mean, you get comfortable, right? You can do this prim prop. I mean, there's a guy that I know who can do the first date sales thing so good, and he can sell you anything. His follow through atrocious, right? If he was selling a car and never saw you again, he'd be great. But if he had to do sessions with you after, he's done. And so I believe that you're selling yourself every single time. But
I
this
love it.
comes back to, we've talked about this, your culture, your
Hmm.
brand, and then what you're doing. And it's funny you said the exercise thing, because I think that's a great point. It drives me, like a personal bias, it drives me nuts when people are so obsessed with like a exercise, right?
Right,
Like the big three, like I love them, but
right.
there's nothing magical about them. What they do is they're a really unique way to get specific adaptations consistently over time. People have done the
Love it.
same exercise and you get to see the same adaptations. So sure, learn about barbell back squat, but what about squat assist bar? What about a deloaded squat? What about a
Hmm.
trap bar squat? What about a body weight squat? What about a leg press? Oh, a leg press and a squat are different? Wait, aren't they just a multi-joint thing with a different profile? So
Right,
why are you getting all hung up about it saying, well, I'm not doing the leg press? It comes
right.
down to the frickin' adaptations you're trying to get, which then turns into the results the client wants, the experience they want in the session and
Hmm.
out of the session. And that leads into the sale of really having them stay. But in that funnel, right? The
Yeah,
whole fist idea, the staying thing, this is where you have to do reassessments and re-communicate with the
I
client
love
and
it.
resell them. Because I did this thing that I call here choking the puppy a
Okay.
lot, right? Where I'd have, it sounds terrible, but you won't forget it now, right? Right? What do? You get someone in your world, you intake them, you put them in your schedule, right? I did this a lot before intake, and I go,
Yeah.
okay, David's once every 2 weeks on Tuesdays at 2. I put him in there. I just don't even think about it anymore. He's in my world. I'm working with him, but I'm thinking he's staying in my schedule once every 2 weeks because that's a good place for him to be. But we don't
Okay.
talk about it. And then he goes, you know what? I'm going to space it out to once every 3 weeks. I'm like, oh no, wait, no, I was counting on that once every 2 weeks, right? If that happens, you just put them in their schedule and you don't actually have a plan as to where you're going with that time to
Love
do
it.
a reassessment to make sure things are going, you're just choking onto that relationship, that placeholder time to make sure you get the money and they stay in your world.
Right.
Now, I don't think having placeholder times is bad, but you need to have a target that you're aiming at. And that
Yeah.
target's an always moving target if you guys
Yeah.
want it to be.
For sure, man. I love that. Right. It's essentially like wake back up. Because I mean, the thing is, we want to make things easy and get comfortable, right? I think with when it comes to being a true professional, um, and thinking about that, just saying that, I think that how we view a professional, especially with exercise, we're different. It was weird. Okay, so here's something. This might be a tangent, but what's interesting, I work with this lady. She is I would call her a marketing genius. Okay, and she loves to give me advice, right? Because I love what you've done here. I love your messaging. I love this, right? And she's on Instagram. She's like probably 65, 67. Brilliant. Okay. I mean, she's been in the game longer than I've been alive, right? When it comes to marketing. And she imparts so much wisdom to me. And what was kind of cool is she's working with a certain organization related to academia and making sure that their services are more how to become people become more aware of them. And she goes, it's weird when I work with people from academia, right? Um, there's no rush for anything. She goes, but I work with like you, right? Or say, I don't work with you, but when I talk to you, like you, I tell you something, you marinate on it, and then all of a sudden you're like implementing it, right? Like it's like nothing's holding it back. And so I think what's interesting is we tend to kind of we have to realize that there's different factions of how we want to convey things and how people operate. Like I get people to come in, their teachers, whatever it is, and they're never really in a rush, right? And so for me, I'm like, I'm not in a rush. I'm like, if I got to get this done, I'm going to get it done. I'm a business owner. I'm going to go get it done, get it done. I got to solve this problem. And we've talked about this with, what's gone on the past year and stuff. And I don't think that's why I can't really be an employee, right? because I feel like I need to go get some. That's why I started my business, where I'm like, I feel like I'm being held back. I want to make sure I'm not stepping on toes, but I want to go forward. And I think that when it comes to us being exercise professionals, nothing against academia. If you want to be a true exercise professional and you want to have somebody fill your schedule, like, oh, they're there every 2 weeks, every week, once a week, cool, that's great. Take an academia approach where it's nothing's in a rush. I'm getting paid, I'm on tenure. Yeah, no, you're not. You need to be more of a business mindset of like, okay, listen, this is their goal. I expect it to take, if I reference the muscle, like this is going to take us this long for this phase and this phase and this phase. This is what I'm shooting for, right? And I think that when you communicate that to people, they respect that more. They take more pride in the time that they're with you. They take more pride in being on time, doing certain things. And I think we should have that approach, especially the expert professional, because I think what happens is, say you get to your goal and typically the goal is, I'm making this amount of money per year, right? Or per week, I'm good. That's typically the goal with a lot of trainers. Like, once I get to here, I'm going to drop that, Orange Theory job and just do this, right? Or I'm going to drop this and do this. You can never stop doing that. You cannot. I mean, I have talked to Brandon about this, but what inspires me, what inspires me about him is that when I talk to him, he's always thinking how to progress and get things better, whether it's his systems, whether it's his marketing. I mean, this camera I'm using right now, because that's why I keep looking down and up, guys, is he was like, dude, I was like, dude, what are you using? What's your setting on your iPhone? He's like, I got a camera, bro. And it's like, wait, what? And so then I went down this whole rabbit hole of like, how can I make a crisper image? How can I use it more efficiently? It's just really cool because he pushes me. He's never satisfied. He is grateful for where he's at, but he's never satisfied with where he can progress. And I think if us as somebody that's an exercise professional or any professional, we need to have that mindset of how can we keep progressing forward? And I know with your guys, you challenge that with them, and so I think that's one thing that we have to take approach-wise, So I guess if I ask you another question, what caused you to keep pushing the envelope in a good manner of reaching a certain goal? What's your, what's the thing that caused you to do that?
Well, I would ask you the same question, right? I mean, we've all got one of these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what causes these companies to consistently make a new iPhone every single year and make new things, right? It's not, I mean, there's definitely a business side of it, but as technology progresses, we learn more and we evolve. iPhones and these technology things get smoother, faster, more efficient, provide better results even faster. And we should do the same. I mean, humans are weird, right? Because as we get older, our minds get sharper to most degrees. Our bodies start to slow down a bit, but we can use this thing up here to become more efficient and better. Ultimately, for me, I mean, there's a couple of things that drive me. I mean, one, from a very prime directive perspective, I believe movement and strategically moving and growing as much muscle as possible. And I don't mean bodybuilders, but getting as much muscle on a body as possible at the youngest age serves someone's life so well and helps with so many immune system responses, systemic responses, metabolic responses, like helps with all health facets. And it's an underrated thing.
Okay.
I also believe that so many people who are having problems, as you do, they get stronger. We know they're going to do better.
Right.
So I really am driven to try and help people in a professional way, but I know that I can't do it alone. I know that the more people who are not necessarily thinking the way that I think, but thinking professionally, high quality and efficiently to try and help as many people as possible, the more humans we can help on this planet.
Love it, dude.
So I keep trying to push that because, I mean, honestly, if I wanted to, I could just chill and stop. But it bothers me how much fitness stuff is online that is like deadlifts or squats. And it's just about who can get a bigger glute, bigger booty, right? Exercise is so much more about online, about fitness, power, how much weight you can lift, and all that stuff's cool. I mean, I like that stuff too.
Yeah, of
but
course.
There's something that has to ascend that. And so that pushes me forward. And coming back to all the other stuff you said, you were talking about just business stuff. I think one thing that's very powerful, this might be a bit of a sidebar, but coming back, is that I think that trainers don't recognize that they are the iPhone every time they get into a meeting, right?
Cool.
They're with a one-on-one. They are the iPhone, right? So think about your iPhone. You have your iPhone, right? And you're trying to text message your wife, and the text message feature's not working. Everything else is working, but the text message feature is just delayed by 30 seconds. And you know how annoying that is, right? When you're trying to airdrop something and it doesn't last that 1 second, it takes like 48 seconds and you're like, come on, like I'm paying for this expensive phone. It should happen right away. Well, so think about that experience, right? It takes 38 seconds more than it should have to send something. So if you have a trainer, Why wouldn't you want to be the 1-second text message and make sure that everything about your product is as efficient, as optimal as possible? Because that's how you're going to get the best amount of money for your time, work the least amount of hours, get people who can afford you. And most people who can afford you at that higher rate are usually pretty respectable people because they've worked through all their own stuff on their own. I think that's what kind of drives me, is how do we help more people and be the best iPhone possible?
Yeah, be as efficient as possible, right? I mean, who doesn't want efficiency? I mean, like if I tag along with this whole iPhone thing and I talk to the kids, like, what's the purpose of exercising, right? Or even the adults, why do you exercise? The whole point is that you can become an efficient system. You can move well, you can do things, whatever it is. Like, why do we have email on our phone? And like before it was like, dude, I got a flip. My first phone was a flip phone, right? I remember when I got my first text message, and my mom was so mad at me because I was like, well, how does this work? You know, and I text back. But back then, a text was like 10 cents a text. She was heated, dude. I mean, I remember we went to Verizon and just was like, he's like, well, we can put you on a plan. And she was looking at me like, we can waive this bill. Sorry, blah, blah. You know, which was cool. Thank you to them for doing that. But the phone has changed over time tremendously. Like I can look at from like when it was a flip phone to what it is now. But like you said, there's these micro changes that happen to make this thing more and more efficient over time. Why can't we do that as professionals? Why can't we have that mindset of, okay, you know what? Like, I'll be honest with you. Like our assessment process, like we're digitalized. I communicate with doctors easily. Like I have forms to communicate with them and how they want to receive it. Sending reports, the athletic testing, like all the sheets are good, but I'm always tinkering because and I don't know, and I'm assuming you do this, but I look at the lens of like, you know, this is good. How can it be better? Right? How can it be better? And I'm like, oh, you know, I can do this little tweak here. Whoa, the flow is easier. I'm getting things done faster, right? I guess the thing that I found is the more efficient I can be with my time, the better I can do with my systems. The more efficient I am with my systems, the more I get to do this stuff, right? Okay, I have my sheet where I track the workouts, the plan of action, where we're going. Okay, and I have like on my workout sheet, machine setting, handle, right? Blank sheet of blocks, reps. Oh, I can put a note of that I changed. Whoa, they fatigue super fast this third set. I can jot down a quick note, just like these notes on my whiteboard behind me, to where I can look back and be like, that's what it was. And then I can spend more time being in the session with them, right? I think one of the fears of a lot of trainers is they want to be so technical, they don't take notes, which I think is a big mistake. I think not taking notes is a very big mistake on many fronts. But if you don't take notes, you can't look back at history and you don't know where you're going. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And that's why I think it's huge as a professional when a client says, well, how am I doing? You're doing good.
How do you feel? You must be doing great.
Well, have I gotten stronger? You sure have. It looks like it. Look at you. It's like, no, sometimes people want to see those numbers. They want to see the progression. They want to see your plan. And I think that can help us as a professional. When you know where you started and where you're going, you can look back along the way and be like, oh, you know what? That hip mobility thing on that right side is not getting any better. Maybe we should reassess, or like you said, choke the puppy and see, let's investigate this hip a little bit more. Yeah, we got to spend some more time here. And I think that's what's really cool is I'm just a big believer of like, you can make what you want.
Yeah.
Where you want to go, you can go. Like, because how this gym operates, there's nothing like it, right? I'm saying around us, you know, we're you, me. Yeah, we got it. But people are like, wow, this is just different. I like it. They didn't know it was out there, which goes back to the whole FIST method. They got to find you, right? They got to find you. If they don't find you, they don't understand how you do things, then how can they know there's a different way to go? Because guess what people are looking at? You said it earlier. Instagram.
Yeah, man.
You know, this, that. It's like, wait, I don't know if I want my tea like that. That's too much sugar. You know, I'm not in the South. I don't want sweet tea. I just want normal tea, right? So, okay, well, how do you want that? And there's a lot of people that want that. They just don't know it's out there. You know what I'm saying? And we should be able to, as fitness professionals, to do that, you know?
But, and you come back to that tech example. I mean, this is where I love that, right? Because you're talking about the camera example. Well, if you relate this to a professional, right? You got your iPhone, using your iPhone camera, right? It's glitching. It's not working 100%, but you keep using it because it's what you got. You're like, I don't know what else is out there. You keep using it. You keep using it. Well, how many people have a trainer that they're not super happy with, but keep paying them money, And then all of a sudden you go, uh-oh, Canon DSLR. It's a lot more money, but it's good. And what do? They get rid of that trainer that's not doing the job, and they find that DSLR, and all of a sudden they replace that previous pod. When was the last time you used a camera? I mean, you use your iPhone all the time, but it's not that, you know what I mean? Like, they start to replace it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's great, because if you were on your phone right now, if we were doing this and Zoom started to glitch while we were talking,
oh,
I'm not going to use Zoom. I'm going to go to Microsoft Teams. I'm done with this. This is ridiculous, right? You just peace out and you finish it, right? And so that productivity thing and efficiency thing you talked about too. I mean, I'm a huge fan of that. And I see so many trainers that are actually hardworking, but because of their IR, they're afraid of working on the things they need to do that would be efficient to turn into business. So what do? They invest a ton of time into something that's not going to yield any results, makes them look good or something like that, doesn't yield any results, over and over again. They keep doing the same thing over and over. Why is this not working? But it makes them feel good because they're like, well, I'm working on what I'm working on, so it's going to work out someday.
Right.
You know what, man? This is where you got to problem solve, because it doesn't take that much time to start a new relationship and meet somebody.
Right, man.
You got to know, how are people finding you and how are you connecting with humans? Because you can take glamour shots of yourself all day, cool videos of you exercising, you know, right? You can do that all day. You're like, why aren't people, I got it all on Instagram, why aren't people hiring me?
Right.
Not about that. You know what? I mean, the number of times you see, I post a lot on Instagram to have a high quality brand for what we do. People see us, I want people to see that we're different. I don't get business from Instagram for our client demographic. I do one presentation and I get like 3 new people in a day. And it's because the connection, the professionalism, the real world, that stuff goes so much further. But people are afraid of talking to people. And if you don't have that passion to get out there and be like, what is it about talking to humans that scares the crap out of me? How can I get past that? I think it's a tough go here.
I love that. And I think that I think that the technician side of things is crucial, but I'm going to say that from an aspect of communicating with people, right? I mean, to be able to dialogue with humans, right? I know what we're going through right now. We're far away. I mean, if we were close to each other, we'd be like, yo, we're close doing this podcast. But, we don't talk to people. We don't know how to communicate to people. We do use these to intercede those things, right? And I think in the course, I call them emojos, right? But they're emojis, right? So, I call them emojos. But we had to build these things to convey emotion and so forth when we're communicating via a letter, a truncated letter. And I think that the technician side, we need to get better, not just the how do you lift, how do you do things, understanding physics, which again, super crucial. It is that course that it really changed my mind of looking at exercise a different way. And then the other course with MSS, like systems, how to build a process, that kind of stuff, those things help. But we need another system on how to communicate better. And the thing is you may get a glimpse of it and then you don't revisit it. And you told me something a while back, as in a week ago, probably, which I'm jogging. I guess
back in the day.
Sounds more sophisticated if I say, well, you told me, a while back, you said, well, I think you told me this, but you said you revisit the material you went over to master that. Didn't we talking about that?
All the time. Yeah.
Yeah. And I forgot how you said it, but you're like, and then I revisit it where we just keep moving on versus go back and master that, right? Revisit it and keep progressing forward and tie it in. Because like you said, like I don't need to do a lot more technician stuff when it comes to exercise, but I go back to hone in on certain areas, which to me is a way to master or refine or hone your craft. And I think that we need to do a better job of communicating to people because the culture that we are within is dictating that we don't do this as much, right? And I think you're right. I mean, Brandon said it, right? He said essentially, when I do a seminar, I'll get 3 or whatever people because there's a connection. When you can interact with somebody person to person, right? There's more there than I post on Instagram. I've gotten a few people. It's been going up from people like, hey, I heard of you, but I've had to do a whole vetting process to figure out what do they want to come here because it was a sick Athlete Academy video or that was a really cool post. I'm trying to convey the message, but I need to make sure they're still a good fit for or what they're looking for is what we do.
Yeah.
And so I think as technicians in communication, we need to be better at that, right? Maybe come up with a cool term for that, like hashtag the senseis of communication. I don't know. The concierge.
Talk to humans, jerk. No, I mean, that's honestly it. It's like, I mean, this is the thing. And I'm trying to figure out a way to do this. I just finished this communication module and I'm for this course I'm working on. And I mean, ultimately you just got to talk to people, come up with some strategies, work on communicating, work on listening. Because I think that's one thing that people, I mean, if you want to forget about strategies, I think people just need to get better at listening to what someone says and how someone says it. Because if someone says, "Hey, Curtis, my progress is going great. I'm super excited." You go, "Yeah, my progress is going great. I'm super excited." Right? There's two totally different messages there. And that creates an opportunity where they say the second one, you go, "Hey, you don't sound super excited. Is everything all right? What are you thinking about? How are the results going?" You can ask more questions, but you got to
Right.
listen to people and be interested. I mean, it comes back to the iPhone, right? The whole thing with an iPhone is trying to integrate with you as easy as possible. You need to be a chameleon to integrate with whoever's in front of you. You got to
I
be.
love it. I love it, man. I think, and it's for the betterment of themselves, right? It's for them. It's not because we're trying to be, shady, but like, whoa, I heard that tone right there, right? Like my wife says to me, Jack says to me, she'll say, "It's not what you said, it's how you said it," right? And she doesn't want to say anymore because I'm pretty locked in, so I'm locked in. But early in the marriage, she's like, "It's not what you said, it's how you said it," right? And I'm like, oh boy, but it's how people answer questions to us, right?
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting. And I think what's really cool is if the communication side is so important for an exercise professional, why don't we work on it? We need to work on it, right? And I think so. Brett Bartholomew has another podcast called Art of Coaching, and he did a podcast a while back on what's your blind spots, right? And it's like, okay, if I'm not good at communicating, okay, that's my blind spot. I need to work on that. For me, it was like, dude, I was getting busy, and my systems were decent, but I needed to sharpen those things up, and that was my blind spot. Now, did it take away from me being able to train more people? I had to block out more time to do that. Yes, but now that it's in place, whoo, we're rolling, and it's even more efficient than I thought it would be. Right. Yeah. So, as an exercise professional, we've got to figure out what our blind spots are. And I think a lot of us, it is like you said, talk to humans, jerk. You got to talk to people. We don't want to talk to people, but they're spending an hour with us. How many words are exchanged in an hour? I mean, I don't know the stats on that. I'm not gonna make one up. 1 million, whatever. I mean, that's a lot of words. And if you don't want to communicate to people, it's gonna hold you back.
Well, and this is where I love, and I was just talking about this in my little course, but like I love how technology's limited us so much. I mean, only 7% of communications from the actual written word through text message, and there's 38% is the tone, right? So how you said it is way more important than the actual written word.
Right.
Well, nowadays technology has advanced so much that you can actually send a voice note dictation like you and I do all the time.
Right.
And you can send so much more information so much faster. It is faster for everyone. It's faster for me. I don't have to sit there and type it and worry about getting arthritis in my thumbs. I'm not actually, right? But you can hear it, you can respond, right? You can get so much more information across. I've challenged my team here, and it's tough, right? If a client text messages you something, try to respond with a voice dictation. Try to make it personal. That small little step helps to build that connection and make it so much more personal on the rapport continuum. I think it's awesome.
I love that, man. I love that, man. That's so great. And I think we keep going with this episode, but I think we covered a good bit. And I think we do part 2, maybe do it on your podcast and go from there. But I think as exercise professionals, for us to truly build a business, I think if you listen to each of our journeys, they're somewhat similar, but they're different. And it's what's kind of cool, if I'm just talking about it right now, is they've kind of like been on this journey, and then like the whole talking and marketing and whatever it is, like we've kind of intersected at the same time. And I think that's what's so refreshing is when you can walk through a journey with somebody. And as an exercise professional, realize you're not alone. We all want to do this alone, but it's important to have people to encourage you with. Maybe look at your blind spots, right? Like just as iron sharpens iron, Brandon sharpens clay, and clay it molds, so it doesn't sharpen. I do the best I can. I'm just kidding, but iron sharpens iron, just as man sharpens man. And I think it's crucial to have those people to look at your blind spots to like, hey, you're just not communicating very well.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Or your sales aren't very good, and that's okay because it is a journey, and you will hopefully over time continue to get better. So,
yeah, there's 2 things I want to say quickly. One,
please, yeah,
we both have mining references in our names, right? Clay, right? Strata refers to all the different layers of soil when you're mining. So we're both in that same. I don't know.
Hey.
And then the other thing too that I love is, I think when the bar to entry to something, a club or a group or education, when it's so low, it brings a lot of like riff-raffy people. And I'm not saying but there's a lot of that in personal training because you pay $300 and you're a certified personal trainer. You can, right? There's no real standard. But I think you and I are around the same age, we've gone through a lot of the different tropes and amazing things and challenges. We've invested the money, we've invested the time, we put the energy in, we had to figure out our downfalls, figure out our strengths. harness them, work with other people. And we've gone through, we're at this very similar spot in our journey, even though we haven't done it together. We
Right.
kind of have and ended up at the same spot, which is why I like talking to you about this stuff, because we are doing things slightly different, but we're doing the same thing. We've got a very similar product. People like it. And we've gone through the same
Right.
wars, so to speak, and continue to do so. So when we chat, it's a mutually beneficial thing,
I
because
love it.
you say things and I'm like, I got to button up my paperwork because Microsoft Teams is not my friend. I don't know how to do this stuff. Right. And yeah, it's great. So I love doing this stuff. I'm happy to be on your podcast and chat with you about this stuff anytime. I think we got some good things in common that we can riff on for sure.
For sure, man. And I love that. And yeah, man, I appreciate that. And everything is the exact same for you. And I was telling Jackie about this, where I cannot talk to you for a while, right? Because our schedules are crazy or whatever it is, or and then we talk again and it's like we didn't miss a beat. And I think that's what's super encouraging, because yeah, you're right. We've gone through these similar things, different journeys, different parts of the, northern region and so forth. But it's really cool to see that. And I forgot to say this in the beginning, guys, but it was funny when I first heard about Brandon, right? I thought Brandon, I was like, dude, how old is this guy? And I was like, dude, he's like around my age. This is crazy, because I went to this course, and shout out to Matt Bernier. Love that guy so much. And it was just his birthday on Monday. But he's like, dude, you got to meet this guy, Brandon Green, man. You guys would hit it off. And I remember I was like, gosh, how old was I? It can't be 25. I can't remember how old I was. But anyways, I was going through and I was like, who is this guy? He teaches for RTS, blah, blah. You'd love him. You guys are very similar, this kind of stuff. And I started trying to find him online, and I was like, oh, dude, this dude's awesome. Love what he's doing. This is cool. And I'll be honest, man, I remember the first time we met. I want to say it was an instructors thing, dude, in Ohio.
It may have been.
And we lifted and stuff.
Yeah, I think you're right, actually. Right? I think you're right. We did the pressing and all that stuff. I think that was the first time. Yeah, no, I think that I can't remember our first interaction for sure. But I mean,
I would say I think that is the first one. Like, we would message each other. Like, I would message you on Instagram and stuff, like, hey, bro. And
yeah, I was actually looking through our Instagram stuff, and I think the latest message, the first message I could see, I think was 2016 or 15, and I was asking you about a machine that you'd picked up or something like that. I can't remember. Yeah. We were talking about some machine stuff. Yeah, I don't know.
And what's a funny fact about that too is I think you got your space a little before I got mine. I remember you posted those black dumbbells. And I was like, bro, where did you find black handle dumbbells?
That's right. I think that might have been the first.
Where did you find those? She's like, oh, blah, blah, and so
that's right. I think that was the first. Yeah.
Which is cool, because like we each got a space around the same time. And it's just like, I don't know. It's just kind of cool, man. I appreciate you on so many fronts. And dude, I appreciate you coming on this podcast. We'll obviously do another one at some point. Guys, you got to go listen to his podcast. He does it with another guy named Glenn Owen. Glenn is awesome. Dude is hype. I actually met him in Ohio. Wow, Ohio is a uniting place. Anyways,
it is, man.
So met him there, and they do a podcast called Minds on Muscle. Great podcast. They cover topics all the time, different topics, so forth. Keep an eye on Brandon. But where can they find you? Well, like, there's a plethora of accounts, but where can they find you on social media, website, whatever it is to find you?
Yeah, so I mean, Strata Internal Performance is my business. There's lots of stuff on me there. The Minds on Muscle podcast is on Instagram. I'm currently working on trying to put some of my own stuff out there. So if you want to find me on Instagram, it's brandon.green.fitnesspro. Some cool stuff coming that I'm super jazzed about. But if anybody has any questions about the stuff that I said, they want to chat and just connect, please let me know.
Love it.
I'm just super excited. I got something cool coming out. I'll just throw this out there now.
Yeah.
I finished my rough draft for a book for a drum company. So I'm actually doing a drum set ergonomics book. I think it's called, what we're calling it, Stronger Drummers Play Longer is the working title. So right. I might be getting a published book coming out soon, which I'm super excited about. But honestly, I mean, I got all these different things. At the end of the day, find me where you find me. Reach out to me. I'd love to meet with you guys. And thanks so much for your time, Chris. Honestly, it was really a pleasure doing this. I love this.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. So guys, hey, just say thank you to Brandon for being on, and we covered a bunch of different topics, but that is this episode of CLAYS CORTEX, the podcast featuring Green and Clay. We will see you guys soon.
Everyone loves green clay.